I think probably this would come in the near future, but like if you want to communicate with the node services, like for example, if I want to, yeah, like off-chain data, for example, a current price of an asset in the market. How do we do that?
Say it one more time.
Hello.
You want to make what?
So if we want to communicate with Node APIs, basically, like
Node
Node,
APIs.
like the client.
You can't. You cannot normally communicate with the client. You need to. You need, as you learn, there's this runtime client interface, and all messages have to be between that.
Okay.
So, what you're trying to do with the palette talking to the client is, generally speaking, like not deterministic.
Not deterministic. Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't need to be deterministic. Like I want to find, like I want real world data.
Yeah.
Like,
This is not a. I'm not going to answer this question. This is we can talk about it later, but real world data is not deterministic. Like you can't bring it to the runtime. The runtime is a sandboxed environment. And generally speaking, we only expose very few interfaces to the client. It's not normal to add more things to talk to the client. Like we already gave you the APIs to talk.
Okay.
This was a runtime interface. So whatever you're thinking, stop thinking it. Truthfully, like it's not going to be helpful for you in this project.
Okay.
Okay.
I also posted something on the Discord with regards to like trades and stuff.
In which channel? The engineering?
I like, yeah, continuing the conversation. Yeah, this.
No, you need to review scale encoding. You can't just put compact on a struct. What does it mean? Compact encoding is something specific for numbers. So compact encoding only applies to numbers, can only apply to fields inside of a struct which have numbers. You cannot, like, again, this is where, again, this is actually the kinds of things where it's kind of concerning to me, because you need to review in the lecture, how does compact encoding actually doing compactness, right? You have a number with a bunch of zeros missing, and there are ways you can represent that number more cheaply.
Okay. So
Structs inside of scale are already maximally encoded. They're already maximally compacted because they don't have any additional fields.
Okay,
So
it's just for numbers. Okay.
it's only for numbers. And if you look at the lecture slides, they were only talking about numbers too, right? It's only compact numbers.
Okay, it wasn't clear to me. And then also, can you give an example of how to do the parameter thing? Because you mentioned that, like, if we want to define that something is a parameter, then there's this type and the trait and implementation in the lecture slides.
So you're saying, okay, so let's make a new custom type, and let's make it as a parameter of an extrinsic.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, sure. So let's walk through what that looks like. So I'm going to do this inside of DPOS, because I think DPOS hasn't got a lot of love. Although I think there's like one person who's doing it. By the way, can you please, I put a poll inside the engineering track. Please scroll up to see the poll. I just want to know roughly the distribution of who's doing what project. It just helps me with grading. It helps me with like planning my time. So in this one moment right now, just go to the engineering track channel here. Where is it? Desktop, I guess. Yeah. In here, and then if you scroll up here, this thing, just vote. See the numbers. A lot of decks. Okay. Anyway, please just put it in there. It's like you're not required to do it. I just want to know the distribution. It helps me. Okay. So let's do this real quick. So inside of DPOS, let's create a new type. So this is let's say a struct. Let's say struct my input, which has field 1, which is going to be a U32, field 2, which is going to be a we actually, because it's, well, I don't want to write vec. I don't want to do that. This is going to be a t hash, so it's going to be over t config, input t config. And someone give me a field 3. Oh, like a count ID, right? T count ID. That makes sense, right? So here's a custom struct. I have put nothing on it, right? This should compile though, right now, because I'm not using it. It compiles, okay. So I haven't used it, I've never broken any rules of Substrate yet. So now let's go and let's make this in a field of a new extrinsic. And we're going to start seeing various problems that we'll fix together. So this is input something, right? Index is 2. Origin 4, input, and we're using our my input object, okay? And here we're just going to return OK. We don't actually care. We just want to input it, okay? So let's build and see what happens. Okay, we have errors now, right? Oh, because T. Let's look for more relevant errors. Okay, errors. Bunch of errors here. It can't be formatted, so it's missing debug. It can't be cloned. It's missing clone. Can't implement partial EQ. Like Rust is telling you that this object you created, I can't use it. It's missing all of these different traits. And we saw earlier, again, if you look at the call lecture, it requires this parameter trait, which has a bunch of requirements. So maybe we can look at that real quick. We go to Polkadot SDK. You go to trait parameter. And you can see here, these are all of the different things that we're expecting that it implements, okay? So what do? Generally speaking, it's a copy-paste memorization. Like literally what I do when I'm making a new object, I go to another palette, I find a custom object, I copy and paste it and change it for what I want. That's truthfully how I do it. It's just, you know, if you want to make a VS Code plugin, that would be great.
In the chat, I did a macro that basically does that.
Sure. Yeah. But anyway, let's walk through it manually. So here we can derive. So I think I need clone. I need EQ. I need partial EQ. I need debug. I need type info. Oh, encode decode, obviously. Scale. Encode decode. Type info. Okay, now we run into a problem that it's great. I want to run into this because I'm sure some of you face this and I want to have a solution. Really pay attention here, okay? This is important. What is happening and what are different ways we can solve it? Okay, so I'm gonna put the solution and then I'm gonna talk about it just to make sure that there's not something else happening. But there's this thing, it was in Discord too, this scale info, this skip type params. I'm gonna put this magic line in here and it should just work. Debug. Wait for it. Okay, so I did two things. Let's talk about it, okay? What is the core of the last error? The error, let's get rid of this. And let's just see if this complains again. The error is this. The error is saying that type info is not implemented for T, right? Which kind of makes sense. We are using this T as some kind of vehicle which is passing around types, right? T itself doesn't expect to have any of these traits. It's not expected to be debuggable. It's not expected to be encodable. It's not expected to be type infoable. T is not a real thing. It is just like a vehicle for carrying types. But unfortunately, Rust does not know this. Rust sees you using T inside of your object, and therefore, when you have a requirement that that object implements some traits, that all of the things underneath it have to implement the trait as well. And so Rust is just confused. I do not know if there is a future plan for Rust being better at this or whatever, but we have a solution for it, and that's what I'm going to show you next, okay? But this is not a mistake that you've made. This is just Rust unable to understand what you're doing here, okay? So I want to show this current solution and then one more solution, and they're both equally valid. Remember, at the end of the day, all these types are concrete. The first solution is to tell these macros to skip T, okay? And that's what I did in 2 steps. The first one, this type info, this is coming from scale info. So you need to tell scale info, skip type param T. So it will just skip it. It will, while it's generating its code, it will just skip over T and not need it. So that's what solves this problem. ignoring the warnings, now compiles, right? So here, where T does not make sense to have type info, we told scale info skip it. Okay, now the other one I did here, debug no bound. Instead I do debug, I'm gonna get a similar error that T does not implement debug. T does not make sense to implement debug. So we have, and debug is a normal derived macro provided by Rust. That's like way up high. I believe Substrate, we provide this debug no bound, which is the same thing. It's telling it skip this trait bound, right? So it's our own version of debug, which skips this thing, and then you get the solution again. So this is one way. So if you ever see an error that T is not implementing some trait, you need to spend 1 minute going into Polkadot SDK, looking for other examples for the combination of traits that they use. And if after that 1 minute you cannot find it, you come to me or Discord right away, and I'll just give you the answer. This is not the part of Rust that you need to fight. Okay, this is just the like, for example, this derived stuff. Do we agree in general? It's very amazing. Like, it's generating a lot of code for you. It can have its flaws. No one's perfect. Yeah, you agree. I agree too. But now, what is the other solution? The other solution is, what if we could write this struct without involving T? Then we would never have this problem to begin with, right? So let's do that. Let's do my other input. My other input. And we have field 1, U32. Field 2, I'm going to leave this as a question mark. Field 3, question mark. And we want to ignore T, so maybe there's other stuff here. Who wants to tell me what to do? You want to tell me what to do?
Yeah.
Tell me what to do. You got the mic.
We can give hash, write hash literally.
Right here?
Yes. And there we can write account, ID, yeah. And the same two inputs we comma separated inside the bracket.
Perfect answer. Instead of making the struct generic over T, which has all the types, it's like a ton of things in there, you make it generic over just the types you need. In this context, we've never involved the T at all, right? But then, when we use this object, so let's do the same process. Let's go put this also in my function. Input 2 is my other input. We need to define, instead of T there, we have two generic parameters. We do T hash, T account ID. You see how we're passing the same information, but passing it at a different point of the type definition. Okay? But I'm still going to get errors because this object does not implement the things I want. But I'm going to be able to solve those errors kind of more quickly without the hacks. So I'm going to be able to put on here derive, clone, EQ, partial EQ, debug, I don't care about the bound, type, info, encode, decode. And because I never used that T, all of this stuff will just work. I don't have to do this magic trick about skipping because there's nothing to skip. These types are the Rust can figure out what's going on here. Because hash and account ID do implement all of these traits. Therefore, it satisfies this checking of the traits, right? Now, which one should you do? They are literally the same. They are literally the same. So if you're comfortable with this extra macro magic, then it can be easier to pass all your types with T. It can be easier to define objects with just one T instead of having to, do things more verbose. But if, for whatever reason, you don't like it or you're getting stuck by it, know there's all ways you can do this, and you can bypass the other way. But obviously, if you have 10 or 20 types all separate, then making this thing 10 or 20 generics is like super annoying. That's what the whole point of the T is. And if you want to better understand this logic, you can follow a tutorial called the Rust State Machine. I've only said it a million times. I'm not even kidding you. This is a cheat to all the hardest parts of Substrate. It will tell you how to do it from scratch.
Yes, my worry is by copy pasting, if I include skip type info on another type, will that affect the metadata?
It's a good question. I don't know. Let's see. So if I put skip type info T on here, there's no T, right?
Yeah, not here. This is okay. But any other place should we be
works.
careful about? I mean, if we apply this macro, will it affect the metadata generation? Like,
Yeah, it does,
so,
but
so we should not be doing it
no, but
everywhere.
in skip type T makes sense because T doesn't have metadata.
Okay, so it's safe to.
It's safe to do here. So T itself is not a real type. It's like a placeholder. So in this case, skipping T is actually correct. It is correct.
So assume, my question is, assume in every
So-
struct I write in the.
So you want to do
left
like if
side,
you do skip
and
skip hash. That's weird. That's bad. I think it'll work, but like this would actually, I think if I understand correctly, this would skip the metadata for hash in the object, and that would be weird.
Okay. So
Don't do that.
got it. Thank you.
Okay. So some of you are creating custom objects and stuff like that. So one more thing. This is now we made it compatible with a parameter. Is this compatible with storage? Let's do it. Let's show me. Let's find out. Okay, I'm gonna make a new palette storage, which is going to be type my storage, which is going to be a storage value with underscore with the type. Which one? My input. Let's do my input with the T, right? And then it's going to be a that's it, something like that, right? So let's make sure this compiles. Expected 2 colons. Thank you, Rust. By the way, the MacBook Air is working pretty well, actually. You know, that's pretty. It's not that expensive. For those Windows users, like this is the way, man. This is the way. Type. I'm missing T. I'm missing T config here, and I'm missing T on the my input. I'd say the MacBook Air, like the M1 chip, it crushes Substrate, man. It crushes it. Yo, perfect. It doesn't work. We forgot max encoded length, remember? So all storage in the runtime has to have a max encoded length. Now this one does have it, but we didn't tell it has it. So there's 2 solutions, okay? There's one solution that's naughty. Don't do it. But obviously I show you, which is palette store unbounded or something. I think it's something like that, right? Yeah. So you can put this palette unbounded and you say, hey, I don't care about the length, right? There are a non-zero amount of times where this is correct. Not in this academy, okay? What's better instead is you just put max encoded length, derive, and then now it will work in storage. Oh. Ah, that's not. Thank you. Now it will work. Bam. Right. So again, these are exactly the types you should pretty much put on every object that you create. Right. Every object is gonna have clone, EQ, partial EQ, debug, maybe no bound, type info, encode, decode, max encoded length. And then these ones are really the ones that are kind of like substrate specific. Right. This is parity scale codec. That's for metadata. That's for storage, right? But practically speaking, if you looked at the error messages, it's telling you this right away, right? Now, I know it's not that intuitive, but now you know. Copy and paste this line. You can now have objects which can be used in parameters and in storage. Partial EQ is part of Rust. So if I understand correctly, partial EQ is the ability for the left to equal the right. EQ is that left and right is equal to right and left. Like it's like both directions. It's it's a mathy thing. Yeah, exactly. And I think actually maybe I don't need partial EQ because I think if you tell it to do EQ, it does partial EQ automatically. Oh, so all I need is partial EQ. See, that's not intuitive to me, right? You're right. I don't need partial EQ and EQ. So, okay, what? Rust, man. More questions? You all are doing your projects perfectly, have no questions? Amazing. Now, I'm not going to accept any questions after class, right? Because you don't have any questions now. What? Bounded vectors. Okay, yes, okay. You want to see me use it?
Yes. Marisha. Yeah. Okay, so bounded vectors. So one thing is, okay, they have an issue when you use them in the events and also in the storage item, for example, storage map. Yes, I'm getting some weird
Okay,
stuff.
so
I'm using one.
okay, I think I can work with that as a starting point. Let me just commit this. All right.
Yeah.
So I think if I do some stuff with bounded vectors, that just might be helpful. Like if I just like if I put it into an event, is that what you want?
Event is and storage item.
So storage item is better. So let's do
Yeah.
storage item. Okay. Okay. Bounded vec and storage item. Okay. What project are you doing?
What?
Which project are you doing? The free transaction? Yeah, free transaction. Okay, I'm doing it there. Okay. So let's make a struct pub struct my stuff, right? And then it's going to be in here, field 1 is going to be t account ID. Field 2 is going to be a bounded vec. Ah, okay, I already know. It should work. It should work. We'll see. All right, but you're right. This is not trivial already. Bounded vec, and then some limit, which we haven't done yet. You know, to do limit. Okay. Now we have to make this over t config. We have to do the copy paste. Where's my dpos? Let's copy all this t stuff. Okay. So the first thing is there's two ways you can do limit. So I'm going to do the hard-coded way, and then I would like to show you how you can make a configurable limit, because that's usually the more common thing. So the hard-coded way is you do like get u32 100, right? I think this is correct. Let's see if this compiles. Free tux. And I shouldn't need to explain this too much, right? Because I really believe that you did this in your own, like the pre-exam stuff, right?
Yes.
The assignment 0.
Yes.
This bounded vec thing, I think you guys already, you didn't do it? Okay, let me see, let me get this working, and then I can no get u32 in the scope. Here, let me find out. So Polkadot SDK, get u32.
Yeah, sure.
Const u32. Thank you so much. Gold star. That's you're right. It's const u32.
Shawn.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't. Yes. Do this. Don't include struct in the storage item. Just put bounded vector as it is plain in the storage item.
Okay, I can do both. But but you know what I want to show is that with the struct, it's always going to be more complicated. But you don't. Okay, sure, whatever. Okay, I hear you there.
Yeah.
I'll do both. I'll do both. But the const u32 is correct. So this is the way that I'm hard coding some limit. So how do I describe this? But you definitely made a bounded vec in your pre-exam stuff, right? Really? Then you all didn't do this extra project that you really should have done. That's naughty. What is a bounded vec? A bounded vec is a vector where we use types in Rust to ensure the size of the vector doesn't go past the limit. So we use zero cost abstractions to basically create a type that ensures that this is a vec of u8 which can't have more than 100 elements. It's like basically a zero cost abstraction. Now, we have definitely documentation on how to make this, but I would challenge you as a small Rust project to do the same thing. Create a bounded vec type. It's not that hard. But note that this is just a zero cost abstraction ensuring that this is a type which is just a vector underneath, but it has a limit of 100 items. You would comment?
Mike? Oh, there you go. So, my wonder is what's the difference exactly between a bounded vec and a regular fixed array, if that makes any sense?
an array always has n number of items.
Okay.
A vec can have a dynamic number of items up to n. So for example, if I were to create an array of 100 items of U8, there must be 100 zeros.
Gotcha.
If I have a bounded vec of 100 that's empty, it's no bytes.
Okay, gotcha. So, okay, I get it. So vec bound is just basically saying it can have a size from 0 to n,
Exactly.
the size, and fixed arrays are more or less just saying this array's n size.
Is n size. Even if it's empty, it's going to contain that many bytes or whatever, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
No problem. Palette storage. What am I doing? I'm creating a new storage. Okay, so type my first thing is storage value. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Bounded vec of U8 const U32 100. So this doesn't compile to you?
Okay, okay. Let me emulate what. Okay, so first of all, yeah, sure. Do you want?
Well, it doesn't compile for me. But
Okay.
oh, because I'm missing config?
Yeah, config or something.
See you something like
Yes, I just want to emulate directly.
Okay.
Okay, yes, do this. Put the first value as a account ID.
that? It works though.
Like, what's the issue?
Dude, he's trolling me here. He just wants me to... It works! It works!
No,
Let
really.
me create the second one.
Actually, like, SP core get you 32 is not implemented. Like, something like. Get you 32?
Dude, it works for me. Did you buy the premium substrate?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you the tree.
Let's do the other one. So, are you doing storage value?
Yes.
There's no default account ID.
Oh.
There's no default account ID. You cannot, storage value assumes a default. There is no default account ID.
Yeah, thank you.
Did everyone get that? Watch this. Okay, this is storage value, T, account ID. So here is a single storage, my favorite account. Here's a single storage with a single account ID. We all agree that this makes sense and it's beautiful and it's nice, right? What kind of object is, what kind of object is this? This is an option, right? There might be an account, there might not be an account. It's an option underneath. If I then put comma, storage value, what I'm trying to do is turn this option into a type. But there is no default for account ID. Value. Yes, that's what I wrote the whole time.
And also, Shawn.
Value created. So there is no default type for account ID. So it's going to give you some error saying there is no default. It's not implemented. So that's exactly the reason. So it's
And also one extra. Put an enum event, right? Something, and then the like event and enum, and then in the event put as like struct, like simple struct, but also like one variant of a bounded vector.
Can you send it to me in Discord? Just like
Okay.
a small text, okay?
Yes.
Let me finish this though. So obviously you can't do value query here because we're trying to make it not an option, but there's no default account, right? And we don't want to. You do not want to use default accounts. That's like almost the same thing as the like undefined or like the null pointer problem. Like, don't do it. You know, in the case of a U32, default is 0. That kind of makes sense. In the case of account, no. And by the way, I don't know if we went over this. Did they go over this in cryptography? The all zero account in ED25519 is known. The private key is known. If you use the all zero account on your chain as some kind of like, in Ethereum, that's the burn address. If you use it, people can access it. You hear me? That we actually have code in Substrate which does not allow transactions from the zero account. But the zero account has a known public key due to the creation of the curve. Okay. You sent me something in chat?
Yeah.
So this is a problem. You cannot use default on. You can't implement default on anything which involves account ID. Okay. Okay. So let's see what you sent me. Discord.
Yeah.
Oh, voting. No.
No, in the engineering, like.
Oh,
it was
okay.
there, yeah. So
Ah.
so bounded vec accordingly and the data, yeah, something like that.
Account sponsor. Back. in the event. You need to add constraint to the generic in case you have to constrain one type. Oh, that's a different answer. Okay, so here. So this is a thing. You want me to make an event like this?
Yes.
Okay, so let's do palette event. And you want this event.
Just put, for example.
Yeah, the get, the const u32 100.
Maybe, yeah. Because this one. Okay.
His
Then I know
problem,
my
his
issues
problem
were-
is with the max.
Isn't it in the maximum, like the associated type?
Okay,
Yeah. Thank you.
but I think I should do that next. I should create well, let's ask more questions. Okay,
Yeah.
go. Everyone okay with what we saw here? Bounded vects? Okay, cool. He has a question first, then you next.
So, was the correct thing to do there to use the it was value query, but was the correct thing to do the option query or?
So no, it's option queries by default.
Oh.
That's the default one. You can
Okay.
you can write option query if you want, but it is option query by default.
Gotcha.
What you could also do is you could do value query, and then you could override the default. Remember we showed you in class how you can change the default, and then you could pick a default account. In that context, right? Like we're not using the default trait, but you're choosing an account that will be your fallback account. So you could do that too, but I've never seen that in code base. It just doesn't make sense.
Thank you.
Mike. Oh, okay. Sorry, man. It's okay. Go
Can
ahead.
you please do an example that uses the method hold on the palette? Because I think you used in a test yesterday,
Yeah, in the palette? Okay, sure.
but it accepts some parameter that in the text you passed like an unit.
Yeah. Is it
And
the same question? Okay. Yeah, I know. So I need to do that. Okay. Why don't you also put it back up here, and then I can hear the other question?
Mine was basically if you could show later how do we make the bounded size configurable.
Yes, I'll do that too. Okay. So what project are you working on? Multisig. Okay, let's do it. Yeah.
I think you need to show this. So here is also one thing is, for example, put a associated type of max whitelist list and then put get u.
Okay,
U8.
so I will let me finish. Then I'll get to yours. I promise. I'm going to finish doing the vec with a configurable type,
Yes.
and then we'll move on. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yours was free transaction.
Very important.
Okay. So here, so next what I'm going to show you is that this is a bounded vec of a fixed size. But as a palette developer, you have the ability to allow the runtime to decide the size, right? It's nice if you make something configurable. For example, if I'm making a multi-sig palette, and I want to have a vector of accounts that are part of the multi-sig, it might be for one chain, they want a maximum of 10 for their scenario. For another chain, they want a maximum of 100, 1,000, whatever the number might be, right? That you can actually configure that, let the runtime configure that, and allow the user to define what that maximum is. That is a better practice, okay? But again, I would say this, if you're running into errors, just do this. Like this is like good enough for this class, but the better, okay? So let's do the better. So how do we do it? It's quite simple. We go into the config, and we're going to create a new type. Type max len, right? That's fine. And it's going to have the trait get u32. So this is going to tell me the thing. I think you can also add optionally. It's nice to have palette constant here. This will generate additional metadata, exposing this constant to the metadata. But it's not required.
So that was an issue. So I didn't include palette constant.
Oh, that was an issue.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I need to, in my test, I need to include this new thing. So type max len is equal to get, or const, u32, 100. So again, remember, we configure something, we have a configurable option in the runtime, in the palette, and then we concretely configure it in the runtime. That's what's happening here for the test. Okay, this works. So you're saying if so I'm not using it right now, so maybe it's not relevant. But if I just remove this, it doesn't like it.
Oh, no way.
Okay. I mean, but I'm not using it yet. I'm not using it yet. And then here I'm gonna put. So instead,
yes.
now instead of here constant 32, I can now use this configurable constant. I can do t : max len, and that should be enough.
Ah,
It's fine. Dude, man, substrate premium. It's for like, $10 a month, you get all the errors go away. But you do palette constant, because this is better. Alright, so this is working, and then I need to, in order for my runtime to compile, let me cargo build. So I need to go into my runtime and add this thing so that the whole project still compiles. Runtime source lib. This is free transaction. Here there's type max len equals const u32 100. Cargo build p node runtime. Node template runtime. Okay, so let's go back to the other question, right? So are we okay with this Vec stuff? Okay, so now we're going to talk about, okay, how do we do a hold inside the thing? So first, I'll make my personal comments. I'm really sorry that you all have to work with these APIs. This whole API of like hold with the ID and stuff like that, it's like super unergonomic, and it doesn't express the ease of building in Substrate. 2 comments on this. One is we use these IDs in production runtimes. Now, it sucks that they're exposed to you even when you're trying to use it in a simple case, but it is very useful in a bigger case, right? Because when you have many different palettes, all with different holds and locks, it's super important you keep track of which holds belong to which palettes, right? In the case there's a bug, these kinds of things are very useful. So practically speaking, you would never make a runtime without these IDs. But I would love to be able to show you, or I'd love to be able for you to tinker with these things without having to use these IDs and just ignore it, right? Like just kind of, ignorance is bliss. But we're not in that case. What I do think as a project for someone who really feels comfortable with this stuff, I would love to see simple wrapper APIs on top of these more complex ones. For example, you can make a simple ERC trait, which is automatically implemented if they implement all the fungible traits, and hide away like all the withdraw killing, the get the balance, all that stuff. You can just basically make decisions on behalf of the user, right? You can give your opinion on what the API should be. I would love to see something like that. It's a great project, great idea, okay? That being said, let's find out how we're going to be able to use holds inside of the runtime with this ID. And what I'm going to do is, I don't know the answer directly. I'm going to go look at the Polkadot codebase, right? What ID? Your question is what ID? So let's look at that real quick. So in the Parity Tech, this link doesn't work, right? Oh, nope. Polkadot SDK. Oh, it works. Okay. Here, if we look at the fungibles, right? Freeze, or you want fungible freeze? Let's do fungible freeze. Fungible. Inside of the fungible, there's a trait called mutate hold. Is what you want? In mutate hold, you can create a new hold, but you must provide a reason, and that's the idea I'm talking about. Okay? Okay. And yesterday in my example, I was able to use the unit type to skip that thing, but there's more stuff here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to learn how to do this on the spot by looking at this. So what I'm going to look for is I'm going to look for where they called the hold function and see in the code base what's happening. Okay, so here. Let's see. Support, transaction storage, hold reason, storage free hold. So here is a palette that uses hold and has a hold reason here. So this hold reason, where is this coming from? So here, okay, new stuff for me. There is this enum hold reason, which has this thing, and it's using a macro palette composite enum. Okay? This is only 3 months old, so truthfully, I don't know this. I don't know this stuff myself, but this is what I would do. Let's copy this, okay? So I'm gonna go over here into my assignment, and this was for Dex, multisig. Okay, multisig. In the multisig, let's go make a new hold reason, and this is gonna be like multisig hold, right? Okay, and then I'm going to create a function called pub function hold me origin for t, and that's the user, and an amount, I guess, amount, which is going to be the balance of t, right? That's enough, okay. And then it returns a dispatch result. And then I'm going to call, so let who equals ensure signed origin. And then we do t native balance hold on. So we need to have hold, so hold reason multisig hold. We need to put the ampersand, right? Probably to borrow. For who? For amount. And then okay. See what happens. Are there other ampersands I'm missing? What's happening here? Okay. So call not found in the scope. Oh, yeah, this is wait. Useful. Okay, so I need to bring in mutate hold. Thank you, Rust, for being so considerate. I'm missing the ampersand on who. Hold reason. Okay, so somehow, so I copied and pasted something, but I haven't done enough. So let's look more into actually what's going on here. So there's this hold reason. What other places is being used? Ah, look at this. Inside of the definition for this, it's defining the hold reason is equal to runtime hold reason. And runtime hold reason is another type coming from hold reason. So this is actually something that's kind of great. I'm going to do it, but some of this is going to be explained in my next talk about outer enum. But the idea here is this. No, I'll save it for my talk. But there's aggregate types. Basically, imagine there's many palettes, all with their hold reasons. Because my palette wants to use this type, somehow I need to have a type representing the aggregation of all possible reasons. Okay? So let's do this. Let's copy. And this also gives a hint to another trick that I can show you here. So let's do this. Let's go into my project. Let's make a new type, hold reason. And then in here, in the native balance, I need to also do something. I need to, in the mutate hold, set reason equal to this. Mutate, hold, mutate is there, comma, this. Let's see what happens. And let's make sure I did everything right. Hold reason, into. The last thing I'm missing is into. So I put it directly, but you see, I made the requirement that my hold reason goes into runtime hold reason. And I expect that the runtime hold reason is the one that's used here. So in this last context here, I put dot into. And then I think this is all. I think this is okay. I think the error is probably related to the tests. Wait, sorry. Cargo build P palette multisig. Palette multisig. Oh, jeez. Sig. So it builds, but I think it's going to fail the tests, right? Because I didn't configure the things I want. So test. So the test fails. And so let's fix the tests in the mock. I need to make a new, I thought I fixed this. Sorry guys, for 1 second. I'm going to fix the naming on this. Multisig. Palette multisig. Did everyone fix their naming on their tests? You should, okay? Palette multisig, and then in the tests, voting changes to multisig. Sorry, this was a copy paste problem from yesterday. Okay, so here I need to include now a new type runtime hold reason, and let's see what the other palette does. In their mock, runtime hold reason is just runtime hold reason. Okay, so I just do almost there. Oh, expected. So now, so the last thing. So I told my code that this reason must be this type, right? But then in my mock, I configured the reason as the unit type, which doesn't match. So this needs to be runtime hold reason for everything to match. So Rust is checking all the types being correct. And now it works. So I'll save this. I'll post it in between the lunch, and then you guys can copy this too. But that's the general idea. I truthfully, I did not know how to do this. What I did was I went to Polkadot SDK, right? I found someone using the hold API. I then just looked at what they were doing, right? It's very simple to just follow. There were 6 places where hold reason existed. Obviously, I did have some intuition about what was happening there, but it's not like, you can just copy and paste the patterns and it should work. Again, every single possible thing you can do with Substrate has already been done in the Polkadot SDK, okay? So you can find it. Now, I want to add one more thing to this process. But why don't you do your question, and then I want to add one more step, which is for the DEX users, I can show you how you can, for example, make the native balance and the asset balance the same type, or have the asset ID be a specific type that you want, okay? But let's ask, can we get a mic over here and you can ask your question?
Yeah, that was basically what I did. I copy paste, but I didn't understand why. But I suppose in the next talk you are.
Yeah, so
going to
I'm
explain
going to have a next talk. It's going to be about outer enum, and after that talk, if you don't feel comfortable, I would love to talk about that more deeply. Okay. But have make proposal vec. I need to import. Yeah, SPSTD. Use SP. Oh no. Yeah, I can do that. Use SPSTD vec. Let's see if this fixes it. Ugh. So what was it? What did it suggest to me? Get out of here. You're useless. Let's go. What does you want? What do you want from me? Frame support dispatch vec. Okay, done. Oh, I'm missing runtime hold reason. Okay, we're almost there. Type runtime hold reason. I really want to make sure that the code I give you compiles, because I don't want it to be that I'm giving you code that doesn't compile, right? So there, obviously I'm leaving behind some warnings. You can fix those, but I think I just want to make sure that everything is compiling. It is being generated using that macro. There's a macro I included in my code. Where is it? Was in no, it was in voting. No, multisig? Yeah. There's this thing we included. It's this composite enum. And you see here, there is an enum called hold reason. And this macro, composite enum, is doing some magic to generate a runtime hold reason containing all of the hold reasons across all the palettes. And this is exactly my next talk. My next talk will talk about this, and this is something that I think will make sense after my talk. Okay. Okay. So this all compiles. This is good. Let's commit this. So hold reason.
Sorry, I have a question. So, like you said, it's just 3 months old, right? This is new piece of
Very
code
new
which
stuff.
you have not seen before. But it's supposed to be other way to do that, right? Without this aggregate type.
No, I think that this I'm pretty sure that this aggregated type was created to solve this problem. Like they came together.
Okay, so the whole thing is actually the new in the Polkadot SDK.
Yes, this stuff is relatively new.
Okay.
Truthfully, yeah. Okay. So next thing I want to show is that there's one piece here which we did, which you can abuse a little bit to get rid of some generics. So look what we did here. Here, we had some trait mutate. Inside of the trait mutate, there's a type reason. And we have defined that reason to be something concrete, right? We didn't need this necessarily to begin with, but we did it. We can abuse this to make our types not generic. And if this helps you, it's okay, but you're gonna have to get over this at some point. So let's do something simple. Let's go into the DEX palette. Okay? And I want to compare a native balance and an asset balance. See if they're the same price or the same amount. Okay? The problem is these two different things could be different types, right? So let's try that. Let's do a function. Alright, I'm going here. This is running dispatch result. And returns okay. And I just want to ensure that so this is gonna be a function check equal, and it's gonna have native, which is gonna be a balance of t, and asset, which is going to be the asset balance of t, right? So these are two different types, and I want to ensure native equals asset or they are not equal. And I don't need an origin check. I'm not, well, okay, sure, fine. Always origin check, okay. Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, I need to have an origin. Thank you. Origin for t. Okay, so so this will not compile. Okay, let me see. Test p palette dex. I'm also missing this index thing. So index is 6. I'm missing a equal sign. Oh, equal. Thank you. Paying attention. Very good. You're helping me out. Cargo test palette dex. Okay, it's compiling for that. This is not going to work because the native asset and this other asset, they might have different types, right? We cannot know for certain they're the same. What we can do, though, is in our palette, if this is really important, and it might be important for your projects, that we can define that our palette is only viable in runtimes where they are equal, right? We can basically make that constraint onto our things. So I want to show you how to do that. And why is it compiling so much? I thought cargo. Oh, P. Cargo test P. Yeah, it was compiling the whole thing. Okay. So here, see, it expected this type to be equal to this type, but it's not. So how can we fix this? We can fix this by making more concrete things here. So I think what we can do here is we can say the fungibles asset, this has a type balance. Actually, let me check what the type is. So if I go to the docs, if I go to fungibles, excuse me, tokens, okay. Fungibles, Is balance? Yeah, so it's balance, right? So inspect, if I go to inspect, here, there is a type asset ID and type balance. I'm trying to show you how I can hack these to control them, okay? So in this context, there's a type balance. I can do balance equals balance of t, right? Oop, no t in scope. Okay. Oh, self. Thank you. Whoever said that gets a gold star. There, and it works. See what I've done? I'm still using all the generic stuff of Substrate. I'm still using all these things, but I can say in my palette, not every runtime is valid. Only a runtime where these two types are the same is valid. And that's really powerful too. This is all just Rust. Rust is so cool that it can figure out at the type level that this is okay. And then if you see actually the tests pass, my tests worked. That's because in my mock, the asset for balance here is this balance type, which is 128, and that balance for assets was the same. But if I put this U64, so now balance is U128, this is U64, it won't compile, it'll tell me that it's not compatible, right? This error here, expected U128, found U64. So the compiler is preventing me from using a palette under conditions which is not allowed. This is Rust is the best language for building blockchains, for building any of this kind of very high, important money objects. I don't know. It's just, billions of dollars is protected by this kind of safety. It's great. So what else can I do here? Let's do one. So I've already now shown you how I'm able to make these two types the same. So in this context now, balance of T and asset balance of are exactly the same. What now you might have struggle, okay, well, what is this? I'm working with this asset ID thing. I don't know what it is either. That's weird. You can just do this. Asset ID equals U32. No, this is me using a generic trait and telling it must use this type. Asset ID. Asset ID. Okay, one less S. Ugh, that was scary. What's happened here? Dude, that was like a build error. What did I do? Compiler error? Cargo clean? Okay, dude, that's messed up. Okay, it works. Okay. Besides the compiler error, it works. So you can see here, now it works because in my mock, I have asset ID is U32. Obviously, if I change it, it would have an error. But what does this mean now? This means this, that I can just, in my code, pass U32s. Like, I'm trying to think what the best example is. So if I call here, asset A is asset ID of, this. Remember we did this, right? This asset pair. I could just put here U32 or like 0 U32, or here, let's do this. I could put, instead of this asset ID of, I can just put U32. And it compiles because I have just defined asset ID of as equal to U32. So when you make a change like this, you're just dealing with U32. You can just exactly increment it, you can add 1 to it, you can get the value of it, you can do all the things you want with it. So this is a way you can get by some of the complexities of the system. Now, this is okay. Like, if you want to use this, it's okay. First important step is that you understand how to use this, that it makes sense to you, right? And second is that you should know that in the long term of things, this is a shortcut. This is kind of like this is compromising how generic you can make your palettes be. Because if someone wants to use your palette, where the asset ID isn't a U32, it could be an enum or a string or something else, then your palette is incompatible, right? So you're kind of putting walls around your system. But for the sake of you all building your palette successfully, this is okay. And you can do this with any of the generic types. Does it make sense what happened here? Right? We are just using Rust, we're using the power of Rust, we're just taking generic types, making them concrete.